What's up again, everybody? Let's talk some new modern builds, and we're going to talk one that I have not played before, but I've seen played enough and have played against it a few times myself to know we should be talking about it. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let my very special guest, Mr. Joe Tabasco Rogue Vega, hop on with me and talk through this. Do you want to talk through this, sir?
Yeah, I sure can, and I will. Thank you for having me.
Sweet. Welcome to the show. Is it a show? I don't know. It doesn't feel like
It's
a
a
show.
show.
It's a
It's
show
the big
now.
show.
It is now, Joe. It's a show. First of all, I just want to point out that we are doing a great job of social distancing right now, so good work, us. And how
Oh,
are
yeah.
you doing? You feeling okay?
I'm doing great, having plenty of time to spend with the family, but also plenty of time to brew for New Modern. Honestly, I really enjoy this for the community because it strengthens us. Even though we're, miles apart, we're still able to get together and explore new combos like this one, but also plenty of others, and just really kind of develop the meta before it gets out of control.
I get that. Yeah, I like this format. It's a really fun format. So, speaking of this team, why don't you tell us like the win conditions and we'll go from there. Or you could tell us how you kind of came about, putting the combo together that allows you to win the game.
Well, yeah. So originally there was back whenever WWE first came out, there was a whole bunch of questions in our rules question section on Dice Masters Discord, Dice Masters Online Discord, and one of the main ones that caught my attention was Rob L, one of the guys from Canada, great player. He originally had a question about Bobby Heenan, the Weasel, and its interaction with the Booker T action. So I'm going to go over Bobby Heenan and the Weasel since it's a key piece on the team. It states, it's a two-cost mask. It states, when fielded until the end of turn, for each die your opponent assigns to block, they lose 1 life. And it has a nice parenthetical reminder text here that says, per Bobby Heenan die fielded this turn.
Which is important.
Right. So this is the main reason why I chose to include multiples of the dice, and also why I chose to run with this combo, because had it not been for that parenthetical text, it would have been a meh card. Right now, it's a wonderful card. And a few reasons why I'll explain later on. But yeah, so his interaction was specifically between Booker T and Bobby Heenan. And Booker T says that all characters must block this turn, and you choose how your opponent assigns the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
His question was, well, would that count if I'm the one forcing the assign? And the answer is yes. We've already determined that yes, just because you're the one choosing which blocker to assign, the opponent still has to assign them. So
Correct.
Therefore, it qualifies for the ability to trigger on Bobby Heenan.
Right.
So I thought, why not take it a step further, and why not have a guaranteed way to make sure that your characters are blocking, your opponent's characters are blocking, than rolling an action every turn. So I chose to include another key piece, and that is the Fetid Bloat Drone Putrid Explosion. He's a 5-cost shield with deadly, and his text is, when fielded, when Fetid Bloat Drone attacks, all opposing character dice must block if able.
Yep.
So you have this nice little 2-card combo out here that forces your opponents to block, and of course, for every fielded Bobby Heenan, they're losing a life for each of those characters.
Yep. It's pretty disgusting.
Right, and that's the basis of it. That's the base 2-card combo, really.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was going through testing, I kind of added more pieces, and another piece is, of course, Static Field. That's another. It's a major piece, but it's not completely necessary, right?
Okay.
So you have 4 Bobby Heenans and you have 2 Fetid Bloat Drones. You need Static Field for its nice little global, which everybody knows, but I'm going to go over it again. Pay a mask, remove target attacking character die from combat. Since Fetid Bloat Drone has deadly, it only needs to be engaged with the characters in order to KO them at the end of turn.
That is correct.
So it creates a nice little double-edged sword where they're losing life for blocking, and I'm constantly clearing their board each turn. So if they have any pieces on their board if they have any combos in their team that rely on pieces being on the board, I'm constantly resetting their board while having them lose life.
Yep, and because you can use the Static Field Global to pull back your Fetid Bloat Drone, it's never taking enough damage to KO it, so you can keep doing it each turn, right?
Right, that's exactly right.
Yep.
So those are the 3 major and also key pieces, and the rest of the team is kind of built around getting it there quicker. So I'm going to go for the next piece, which is actually another piece to help it go faster. And actually, I'm going to go over both of these.
Feel free.
First piece is Clayface Restless, everybody's favorite card. This card is really broken in my opinion. It's going to be a key card for the new Modern going forward on how fast teams can go.
Yep.
And because Bobby Heenan's a 2-cost, one way to guarantee that I'm always going to have Bobby Heenan's to roll up each turn is 2 ways. By prepping the Bobby Heenan's through Supreme Intelligence Global, and
so
also
we should add that on there, shouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
we have Supreme,
That's the other one that
which
right.
And I'm just going to throw this one on there. It doesn't matter which one, because you're using it for the global. Pay 2 once per turn. Move a die with purchase cost 2 or less from used to prep, which is the Bobby Heenan, of course. And then you're also using Clayface. Well, I'll let you talk about how you're using the global on Clayface to get more things.
Right. So the global, as you stated, was once per turn you may take a die from your use pile and add it to your reserve pool on any face. So ideally, even going first turn, which this team loves to do, by the way, as long as I have masks, as long as I have a minimum of 2 masks, I'm able to purchase Bobby Heenan, and then Clayface it out on its double mask side, and then purchase another Bobby Heenan. That's plus 2 dice on turn 1. That'll help me later on. But the other reason why it's key is because on turn 1 or 2, whichever, I can use Supreme Intelligence Global by Clayfacing in a spent Bobby Heenan on its double mask side to automatically pay the 2. So I'm constantly making sure that they stay out of the use pile and they maintain their presence in the prep area.
Or at least you're cycling them so quickly because, you know, you're purchasing them, a lot of them, and doing other things with other dice. Yeah.
Right. So a missed Bobby Heenan, get this, a missed Bobby Heenan die that isn't on its character face doubles for a static field or a Clayface activation or even a Nihilor activation. Now let's go over the Nihilor. The other thing that I said was to either KO them or prep them, which Nihilor does beautifully. Now the Nihilor I chose was actually Patient Aberration, which states when fielded, gain control. It's a 6-cost mask. Gain control of all opposing NPC character dice. Return those dice to their owner's control when one of your Nihilor leaves the field zone. Now, this is actually key because even though I do want as many blockers on the board as I can, if there's any teams that actually go a little bit crazy with their sidekicks or relies on having their sidekicks fielded, I can just switch over, I can pivot, and I can purchase this Nihilor, field them, and make sure that the sidekicks are going to stay relatively out of the area that I need them to be.
Sure.
But it has nice global.
If you had to, you could, I guess you could field this and then leave it out in the field, and then when they're in their attack step, you could, or towards the end of their turn, I guess, KO this, put them all back, and then use them on your turn to deal damage with Bobby Heenan, or lose life, I should say.
This global it's a nice global, actually. It's very reminiscent of the super rare Malekith global with just a singular focus, and that is when you pay a mask once per turn, you may KO a character die you control. So I'm using that to KO my Bobby Heenans.
Correct. Plays a lot of, there's a lot of flexibility in what we've got so far here. And we've only got 5 cards and 1 basic action so far. How do you fill out the rest of this team?
So the rest of the team is kind of, it was my pick. Now that core 5, I should add, that should always be the same core 5 if you want your team to be streamlined and efficient, which is a thing I go for. I do janky combos, but I always make sure that they're streamlined and efficient to where if I struggle on one missed roll, I can always recover very quickly.
Right. Same thing.
So the other thing that I wanted to add, this is more of like in the way of utility, and that is Instant War. It's a basic action. Everybody knows and loves it. I personally swear by this.
I'm going to assume that your goal here is going to be, at some point, you can just choose to buy this with some of the energy that you have, especially if you miss like a Bobby Heenan or whatever. Buy this, use this, and then it puts more characters in the field so that your Fetid Bloat Drone sucks them up and forces them to die. And then your Bobby Heenan, when they push into block, is dealing them more life loss, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. It's for acceleration, and also it's for disruption. You're drawing all the sidekicks that would clutter up your bag whenever, let's say, Bobby Heenan slips into your used pile and through your bag, and you also can go quicker through your stuff, and it's also buffing your attack step as well. So it's a multi-tool in a big way. So next, on the utility pieces, I have John Cena, the C Nation leader. Okay. And this is also for defensive piece. So it's kind of removal and defense at the same time. It blocks your key pieces like Fetid Bloat Drone, for one, from getting intimidated off by gazers or other John Cenas.
Super good against gazer, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. And that's the one thing is that you got to watch out for those gazers. And then another defensive piece that's also used somewhat for utility is Big E Powerlifter's Physique. And this is for those overcrushing Becky Lynch's that can get through, or overcrushing anything, or even unblockable Drow mercenaries. So that really helps in mitigating the damage that, like I said, those big god catchers or those Becky Lynches. And speaking of Becky Lynch, the last piece I have on here is made in Ireland, and this is a flex piece. I don't suggest that every team has that on here, but this is to help me get my Bobby Heenans quicker, or my Fetid Bloat Drones out quicker.
Yeah, because of the global, right?
Right, and it's mainly for the global, but she is nice as a control piece. Again, I like to have that variance. I like to have that utility. So I like her for her wind fielded ability, and that is re-rolling up to 2 target superstar dice.
Yep.
Each die that does not roll goes to the use pile, and then she also deals 1 damage for each one that rolls to an energy phase.
This is also just good, just a straight up good secondary win condition. It's good removal. It can literally just slot in for just about anything that you would want. She's an 8/8 overcrusher, so she could just deal some damage whenever. Pretty solid card. It makes sense to include something like that. Now she doesn't, and there is a little bit of anti-synergy in bringing, and thinking of Becky Lynch as sort of this pivot win condition, because you are providing your opponent static field if they didn't bring it themselves.
Yep.
So there is some playability for your opponent. They can just kind of play around with your globals that you're providing. So it's not foolproof, but it's definitely something to consider. And if you time your things right and your opponent doesn't keep a mask, it might just sneak you out a win, right?
Yep, so I wanted to go over the weaknesses, the major weaknesses, and some of the major weaknesses on this team are exactly what you just said. Static field can be used as a double-edged sword. So that's why I'd recommend in the flex pieces you get stuff out like an Istrid Horn you put in an Eddie Guerrero, Ice Steel, things like that. The other major thing is that I don't have hard control pieces like those Hope Summer combos. I don't have a lot of hard control because Intimidate only lasts for a turn. Becky Lynch can only reroll so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm also providing the opponent with massive energy by KOing their sidekicks through Instant War. So those are major weaknesses.
Now, let me ask you this. Out of all of these 10 cards, if there was one that you had to replace, which do you think it would be for you?
For me, it would probably be the Big E. Because
really?
I use him. My personal preference is in this current meta. Yeah, there's a lot of big overcrushing giants or unblockable god catchers, but he's a flex piece in the fact that when you have your Fetid Bloat Drone combo online, they're not able to stick anything out in the field because you've got a deadly blocker that can just disengage each combat and KO them.
See, that's interesting though, because I would have assumed that you would have said John Cena, just because it's literally only teching against like one thing. But I guess technically, because it has Intimidate, you can use it against a weird combo piece like Hope Summers that can clear your board. So I could see where you might lean Big E. I just expected John Cena to be the answer. So you've played this team a lot, yeah?
For 2 months now, I've played it.
So after playing it for so long, how would you grade this team overall in competitiveness on like an A through F scale? A being the most competitive, take it to a high level Nats or Worlds, and F being like, I bust this out and put it on the table because it's going to be hilarious as it loses.
So unfortunately, as much as I want it to be, this team is a solid B-.
Interesting.
I want it to be an A. But the problem is that it does have weaknesses, right? And one of the things is I just got through with playing Green Lantern team, and the Green Lantern team was always quicker than me. And this team is really grindy is the problem, right? Because all your opponent has to do to avoid taking the damage is not have a field and saving up on masks.
Well, so on the flip side of that, what would you say are the benefits or bonuses or fun? What's the fun of this team, and why should someone play it?
So obviously it's the circulating the Bobby Heenans. It is the board clear. Every turn by turn you're board clearing, right? So that is what I enjoy the most, is the fact that all I have to do is just hold one mask and my Fetid Bloat Drone is going in and constantly clearing their board. So that is actually the fun part of it. Is also the negative part about it is that there's a constant board clear, which makes the games turn out to be real grind fests.
All right, so that's the Heenan fetid bloat drone team. Yeah, that's what you
Yep,
got. I love it. I love
we
it.
call
See,
it Heenan drone in the bleachers here.
I gotta play it. I've never put it together. I've only ever played against it, so I gotta get it together. Thanks, Joe, for sharing that with everybody.
Thank you. And one more piece of advice. This is actually an optimized. This is what everybody in the business considers an optimized list. You can do what you want with it to tweak it, but this is considered the optimized list for certain circles.
Ooh, that's a challenge. He's challenging anyone that's watching this video to make his trashy team better. No.
Yeah, actually,
right? Is that a challenge?
It's a B minus. It's a B minus. So
there you go. Someone take it and make it an A plus. Somebody make it more optimized than this. All right, Joe. Thanks for sharing this with us, man.
Thank you.